Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be doing something a little different on this channel, something I don't think we've ever done before. We're going to be talking about a book, and that book is called Practical Charts by Nick DeBart. I hope I didn't murder that last name too badly. I'm terrible with names. Um, and so this is a book that, full disclosure, Nick was generous enough to send me a signed copy of this book, which it was I really appreciate that. That was awesome. And I really appreciate it even more because this book is on a subject that I've really struggled with over the years. I'm terrible at data visualizations. I really am. You guys know this if you guys have watched this channel and seen my reports. They're very bare bones, basic kind of stuff, which are the majority of the things that I produce because it's just whatever reason I wasn't given that gene to understand, and be able to do that stuff naturally. But I feel like even and just because somebody sends me a signed copy of their book is no guarantee that I'm gonna say nice things about it. Uh, if I don't like it, I probably just won't say anything. But I really think this book is awesome, and I wanted to talk. I gave it a big long review on LinkedIn today, and I think so much of this book and so highly of the work that Nick has done that I wanted to actually even do a YouTube channel on it and kind of recreate a couple of the cooler things that I found in the book already, and do it in Power BI. So we're going to do that in here in a second, as well. But the thing about this book is that it's fundamentally, this subject area has never spoken to me or I've never found it approachable, really. It's not like I didn't know where to begin with it. And this book has already helped me, overcome a lot of that hurdle. And I feel like I understand the topic, even, immensely more than I ever have before, just in a few hours of going through the book and perusing it. And just right off the bat, right? I mean, Nick talks about in the introduction that, he goes through and he says like, oh, everybody knows you should keep it simple and you should, tell a story and blah blah, all these kind of like things that people say, and like you're like, oh, okay, I need to tell a story about my data. I'm not sure I really understand what you're talking about. I sort of understand. But Nick approaches it in a whole different ways. And the key thing that I just think is a great approach, and this totally flipped my thinking on this, is the chart doing its job, right? Because that is what reports are there for. They're there to help people do their job better and more efficiently, or at all, right? And so that right there, because I'm a big believer in the end user, right? A lot of people that are in tech, they come at it from the IT techie perspective and everything. And I definitely did that early in my career as well. That was the only, I had tunnel vision as far as that went. But as I don't know, maybe I've gotten older and less technical. Maybe it's less technical. I still feel like I'm pretty technical. The business user perspective is the is what makes up the majority of my thought these days. It's one of the reasons where I go on tirades about calculate or about star schemas and things like that. And it's not because I don't know the technically the right way of doing it, or anything like that. But I look at it, try to look at it from a step back and look at it from the lens of a business user and provide. And I think that the business user perspective in all of this tends to get lost in this IT technical world you know whenever there's a subject of technology like Power BI or something like that, it's always the narrative is always driven by the technical people, because they're the ones that really dig into technology and that's their entire livelihood and stuff. But like the average business user, right? I think their perspective gets lost. Well, the average business user, they're just trying to get a job done, right? And so whether a chart does its job, that really speaks to me, from if I put my business user hat on. So I was immediately hooked, when he started taking that approach within the book in the first few pages. And maybe that's just one of the reasons why I love this book so much. The other one is that, and I'll show this, as we go through it, but there's these key takeaways and they're nice called out in just, color, and they're really easy to find. And I'm a skimmer, and data visualizations and making them look nice is not something I do all day, every day. So being able to have a book that has the just vast amount of knowledge that this thing has in it, but also makes it accessible, in a really easy way. Like, oh, it's a bar chart. I can flip the bar chart. Oh, there's the key takeaways for how to make a bar chart look nice. Oh, look, here's a cheat sheet on a bar chart and everything I need to know about making that bar chart look good. And then there's also these decision trees, I think, that also make it very approachable. So I'm going to show all these. So I'll stop blabbering about this stuff, and I'll actually show you. I created a couple of my um, two favorite scenarios that really spoke to me. I recreated them in Power BI. So this is a stock portfolio, right? And I've got an aggressive portfolio, balanced and conservative. Got a 100% stacked bar chart here, and it's meant to show the mix of risk that I have in this portfolio. And and it has this is if I just build this in Power BI and drag these things over here, right? This is the chart that gets created, right? It gives me an x-axis, gives me a y-axis, gives me some, title that it creates up here. I've got the legend, and I've got these their colors. That's all I can say about them. But they're very contrasting colors, right? And so it just, Nick shows like an example of this, and then he shows, well, this might be a better way of doing it. And so this is my attempt to recreate his better way of doing it in Power BI. So as you can see here, instead of having these very high contrast colors, he suggests using a kind of more of a blended color. It's a gradient, if you will, where it goes from gradient from dark colors are high risk to light colors that are low risk. And basically, that the end user, this is more intuitive to the end user, because all they have to remember is, oh, dark is higher risk and light is less risk, versus like, oh, well, pink is low risk and purple is high risk, and oh, blue, this color of blue is high risk and that one's low risk, right? This does, and I guess it is sorted and all of that sort of stuff, but this is a much, more intuitive to the end user. The other thing that I liked that he did in his chart was, I never really thought about this as an x-axis, is using it to convey more information. So percent of portfolio, comma, May 22nd, 2024. It tells you this is your risk, this is the risk profile as of this date, which I thought was really cool. Not something I really ever thought of doing in an x-axis. But I'll show you how I did it as far as to recreate it. And this is Nick's example. If I can get back to here and I can show it to you here. So here's his example in the book. And again, you know, gorgeous color, gorgeous layouts that he has in this book. I love the little use of annotations everywhere. Makes it, it just gives a good feel to it. As far as Nick knows what he's doing when it comes to presenting visuals. That's all I'll say, because it really this kind of stuff really speaks to me, at least. So again, here's all the high contrasting colors versus here is a much better portfolio where you can really tell that this has a lot more risk than say this, just naturally, right? And so again, Power BI does a pretty good job of that. Out of the box, you can do it. And the way I did it was obviously, you have this chart. You can go to your bars. You can say your high risk. You can pick your color. And I just kind of went from high risk, and right down this gradient, right? That's pretty good. Now to get this here, what you have to do is, this is actually a card, and I created a measure, right? So percent of portfolio format, because in Power BI, could not find a way to make my x-axis. I can make a function, and this I can make a function, but I can't make my title a function. I don't think no, you can't drag a measure in there either. So it's a little bit, now you can, all you have to do is you select both of them and you group them together, and then you can move this chart around as if it's just one chart. But it'd be nice if Power BI had the feature where I could make that title dynamic, right? I could make that title and I could make it dynamic. That'd be really nice, because I could use that space to provide additional information that's dynamic. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this chart actually, I think, looks even better. So if you actually take some additional time, what I did was I took a screenshot of this and I used Paint and I did a color picker on these. And then you could actually create a chart like this, which I think is even better, right? Just the use of the colors where it's, the high to moderate risk is pretty dark colors, and then it dramatically moves to a lighter color when it's low risk, and then very low risk, right? Right, you can tell this has a lot more risk in its portfolio than this down here. And it's easy to see it versus this, I would say. So something I thought was really cool. It's definitely something, a big takeaway from me that I'm going to keep in mind whenever I'm creating these kind of charts. So next topic was whether you should have a chart start at 0 or not. So, and I'm giving away giving away stuff I don't want to give away. So here in terms of, so I recreated this as well. So a business consumer, and this is supposed to be revenue over months and millions of dollars. And so this is the chart that Power BI will give you right out of the box if you just drag stuff in there. Now you can make some improvements to this, which this is a recreation of what Nick has in the book. So I've retiled this revenue by business unit. I've got contrasting colors now, blue and orange versus kind of two different colors of blue. Got my months and my years down here. Now this is something I thought was pretty cool. He had this in 18.0, 17.0, 16. Got rid of like the dollar signs and the M's, which are kind of repetitive over here. Got rid of the y-axis, got rid of the x-axis. And he uses this a lot in this book. He kind of puts in just right in here million US dollars, right? So it's just stated once, kind of cleans things up. Now, in doing that, and it looks like this is it's page 61. All right, so yeah, here it is. So here's this version. I'll get to this in a second, but here's this is the chart I was trying to recreate. Is right here. Goes from 16 to 18. Now I couldn't get the 0.5s in there once I switched from using the value, which is in millions of dollars, and it always there's no way to get rid of these M's. Once you do that, there's no option for it, at least that I could find. But I could do it if I created a revenue measure and divided by a million. Then I could put that in here and just get 18, 17, 16. But then Power BI does not allow me to choose the Y increment. So if I go here to Y-axis, I can choose my minimum and maximum, but I can't choose anything in terms of what my increment in between them is, which is unfortunate. It'd be nice if I could do that. So Miguel Myers, if you're listening, that would be a nice thing to have. Now the question though becomes and here's one other thing that I just totally did not know was a feature in Power BI until just now, which was I really liked the way he did this kind of consumer versus business versus in this kind of a legend, which I don't like legends that much, to be perfectly honest. But that's actually a value that actually is this series labels option. So I turn that on, then I can recreate that effect that he has here. Okay, so now the question though becomes is this chart doing its job, right? Well, if the job is to show the fluctuations between these numbers month over month, then it's doing its job, right? But if the job of the chart is to show that these values remain basically constant over these months, then this is not a very good representation for that. So the way to fix that is, right, you can change it to where your axis starts at 0, goes up to 20 million. Now you can see that, these numbers remain pretty constant over time. And if that's the job of this chart, then this is a much better representation than this, right? Well, but if the job of the chart is to show the fluctuations over months, then this is a much better representation than this. So one of the reasons why you would have your chart start at 0 or not start at 0. And the nifty thing about this is that Nick, so that's what he's showing here. Now, the interesting thing about this is a topic that's much more complex than I have ever given a thought to. But he's got this nifty little, calls it a decision tree. It's a flow chart, right? I never liked flow charts, but again, Nick must know what he's doing because he's made a flow chart that I can live with. I don't mind this at all, this decision tree or flow chart. This I can live with this, and I've never been a fan of flowcharts, and that's clearly what this is, a flowchart, but it's one that speaks to me. Versus I think if he'd just used the standard, flowchart blocky stuff, whatever, I would hate it. But this looks nice. So again, Nick knows what he's doing when it comes to presenting this stuff, because I like it. So now the interesting thing is that sometimes maybe you don't know which one they want, and maybe you need both. So I was able to recreate that in Power BI with an insert chart, which is a tooltip in Power BI speak, right? So here we have this, the same graph is here, which is showing it constant over time. But if I want to see the fluctuations, I can just hover over any part and I can see that same chart kind of zoomed in, if you will, in between the two numbers, the 16 and 18. Now, the way that I did this in Power BI is obviously I created a tooltip page, right? And this tooltip page, I actually set it as a tooltip, but I set it as a custom type because a normal tooltip's 240 by 320. So I blew it up to like 2 times that size. And then I used normally what you would do with tooltips, I would say 99 times out of 100 probably, is you have this flag here, keep all filters. But if you do that in this chart, right, you just get a single point because it's being filtered by the month. So in order to kind of create a kind of zoom in on the chart, you can just toggle that off. And now the chart, it's kind of more like an insert chart where it's kind of, you zoom into a certain area of the x-axis. So it's still got, March through September, but I've just kind of zoomed into just this narrow band right here where I can see the fluctuations. So I've got a chart now that starts at 0 for one purpose of showing how constant it is over time. But if I'm interested to see the variations, then I can just hover over it and I can zoom in between just 16 and 18. And I don't think I would have ever created this chart ever like this without reading Nick's book. So already this is kind of opened kind of new doors for me, if you will. So last thing I wanted to show you guys, back to this book, if I can find the right page, is the cheat sheets. I think it's 220 maybe. Yeah, here we go. So cheat sheet formatting bar charts, right? So here again, this is great, right? I mean, if I'm creating a bar chart, I'm like, oh yeah, what are the rules around bar charts, right? I can flip to it's even in the index. It has cheat sheets is one of the options in the index. And then it's like, oh, cheat sheets, bar charts, dates, line charts, making charts obvious, numbers, pie charts. Yes, he doesn't, he treats pie charts, with respect. I know there's a lot of hate out there for pie charts, but I thought it was interesting that Nick goes in and he gives you all the, what pie charts are good for, what they're not good for, versus just kind of the standard mantra that I've always heard is pie charts suck and should never be used. I don't, I don't know because I'm not a data viz guy, but if Nick's saying pie charts can be useful, then I believe pie charts can maybe be useful. Anyway, so all these cheat sheets are right in here. So you can just flip to the cheat sheet and, it's got all these annotations and stuff and making sure what to do. Again, this is another interesting thing. Maybe I'll cover in another video sometime is like missing values and things like that and how to deal with missing values. In fact, I think Brian Julius just had a LinkedIn post on missing values as well. And I thought that was interesting because I just, again, it's not a subject matter that I've really ever thought too deeply about. And now I've got all the information I need to really understand everything there is to know about missing values and when to display them, when not to, etc. So anyway, that's really, I don't know, this book has been a godsend for me. So thank you, Nick. This is going to help me tremendously in my journey. Again, I think from the data analytics space, I'm very technical in that regard in terms of DAX calculations and Power Query and all the technical components of Power BI and that sort of thing. But the data visualization stuff has always been a weakness. So this book is a godsend to me. So I really appreciate it. That's all I had for this video. Go pick up a copy of Practical Charts. Maybe it'll be as life-changing for you as it is for me. So that's it. That's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.